This live presentation was produced in Ashland, Oregon by the Rogue Valley Metaphysical Library and Event Center. RVML relies on the support of our volunteers, members, and donors to organize and present these programs. For more information about this presentation, or to borrow, download, or purchase other recordings from our catalog, please visit our website at rvml.org.
Well, welcome, and thanks for coming to this, my third outing into this world of meta, whatever it is. Let's see, the first one. How many were at, I'm just curious, we're at the first couple of talks, the first one. Oh, great, okay, that's at least some people, I don't have to go into the whole history. How about the second one was on cymatics and all of that? Great, okay. So this one is, so there's a lot of new people here tonight, so who haven't seen it. But where should I start? Let's see. I started to tell a story last time, that was in June, and I forgot to finish it. I got on a tangent. So I want to finish that story just real quick. It's just a little side tangent before we get into all the major tangents that I had planned for tonight. Tonight, actually, before I go into that, actually, Lange, my friend Lange Dussault is going to come and do a brief talk about the biocomp device, which is one of the most sophisticated energy medicine devices in existence today. And I'll take you slightly through the history of electronic medicine and all of what we basically know about energy medicine and about the body and the whole human health experience. Let's see. So I got into all of this at a pretty young age. It started with, for those of you who don't know me very well, it started with this book. I saw this at Kmart in 1968. Back in those days, Kmart was both a grocery store and a department store. My parents would go there every Friday for groceries, and I'd run around the store in the toy department and all of that, and try to take the TVs apart and stuff. And they would there was this used book pile, and I would always go to this used book pile, and there was this one book on yoga. It's the Yoga System of Health and Relief from Tension. And in it, it's the pictures of this guy doing all of these different asanas, different positions and everything, tying himself in knots, standing on his head and all that. And well, that just fascinated me for some reason. So I kept begging my parents to buy me this book, and so they just went ahead one day, they wore down and they got it for me after about 3 or 4 weeks of going there every Friday for groceries and seeing the book. And so I got interested in yoga at age 8, and I studied Hatha yoga up until 17. And that changes a person somehow. I don't know. I got interested in, when you're into yoga at a young age, one thing leads to another thing and another thing. So I got interested in parapsychology and metaphysics and alternative healing and a lot of Eastern philosophies at a pretty young age. I'm pretty much self-taught in just about everything. They tried to teach me at Catholic school. It just didn't work. But I had a wonderful yoga teacher. I'm just finishing up my autobiography. It's getting close to 165 pages of stuff right now. It talks, I had my first UFO experience at age 3 in the middle of Alabama, central Alabama, where I was born. I've had 4 near-death experiences where I was declared clinically dead, like heart not beating, body not work, you gone, kind of thing. So so with each one of those, I don't know, has anyone ever had a near-death experience or have talked to anyone? You have? Yeah, it's pretty a dramatic thing, and I make light of it because I'm over it now. But the first one was when I was 18. I was in a plane crash, and kind of traumatic. Second one was rolled a car and kind of flew out of the thing, and each time the same scenario. I remember leaving the body and so forth. I had one when I basically got electrocuted. I did a job for the Department of Defense. I got a contract working for and the Human Dolphin Communications Project, which was has been going on since the 50s. And back in 1968, it was getting we learned so much about dolphins. It was Dr. Dwight Wayne Battiot and John C. Lilly and so forth, and even Noam Chomsky was involved with the language part of it. But anyway, within that project, I had several different projects. This is in 1980. The project got dropped at the end of the Vietnam War, and it got picked up again somewhere in the I think the late 70s. So I got hired by the Department of Defense in 1980 to go do this project. It was going to be a lifelong thing. They were paying me quite a bit of money, but I lasted 3 months in it and just couldn't deal with, I don't know, anyone who's ever had a government job or dealing with the government and the bureaucracies and all of that. And that wasn't the only reason. I was into electronic warfare was one of my fortes, and that came about out of one of my science fair projects in 19-something, I don't know, I think I was a junior in high school. We took apart one of these $100 microwave ovens back then, or it was a $200 oven, and we made a microwave, when I say we, it was basically me, we made a microwave ray gun, which you can actually do. They don't want everybody to know this, but you can take apart a microwave ray gun and tune the actual magnetron tube in it and connect it with dielectrics and so forth, and basically blow stuff up. And that's what I did. Sorry. Anyway, that's what I did from about 20 feet away. We I thought I would just, as a demonstration, point the thing at a glass of water to show it boiling. And I didn't have it tuned right, and the water superheated, and basically instant foam or instant steam came out. So that was the demonstration. Well, I won the science fair, so that worked out. Yeah, science fairs are fun. I did one. The following year was I built it was on psychic power or something, I don't know. But I built a Reichian cloudbuster. And I think James DeMeo, was he here talking about the energy stuff? Well, anyway, I built a cloudbuster, put it on the roof of the school. And I write all about this in my book. And these are little stories that I revisit every now and then, but only when I'm in front of an audience. It was like once a lifetime, I don't know. But anyway, so built this thing, put it on the roof of the school, and photographed it, the weather patterns as they changed. Because the cloudbuster can actually manipulate the weather. If you know what you're doing, you have to use very much care when you're using one of these things. Wilhelm Reich designed them back in the 50s and wrote a couple of books on them, and a lot of his work, you can still find his work, and James DeMeo is in Green Springs. He runs a center there where he has actually written a book on Wilhelm Reich and his bioenergy discoveries and so forth. But anyway, I put this cloudbuster on the roof of the school. It started raining, then it started snowing and hail and sleet, and then it didn't stop. We had the worst winter in recorded history. This is in the winter of '77, if you remember that one. But it wasn't my fault. It was really, seriously, it was going to happen anyway. And so I was just part of the system and helping along. But it's kind of funny, and then it's kind of not funny. Well, James DeMeo, I met with him once years ago, and and I kind of told him that story, and he really cut into me. It's like, 17-year-olds should not be playing with cloudbusters, because it can be used as a weapon. If you know what you're doing with a cloudbuster, you can actually turn off nuclear energy. That's one of the things that's suppressed about them. I mean, I'm like open door. I'll tell you everything you want to know about them, because I don't have the fear factor or that a lot of people do when when they talk about this stuff. If you point a Reichian cloudbuster at a nuclear reactor, you'll see a drop in energy in the reactor. So where does that energy go? We know where it goes, but it's way outside of tonight, electronic medicine. So anyway, so yes, I do tangents. So anyway, so they've been used. Reich has used his devices to manipulate energy in the body, to bring about healing of not just physical states, but emotional conditions as well. What it is, it's a Reichian orgone box is a layered electrical capacitor, basically. It absorbs the body's energy, amplifies it, and feeds it back in. And it resonates to your own bioenergy. And they're pretty powerful if they're used properly. Reich's books were burned in a public book burning, which is that was done in the 50s, right before he was thrown in jail. And he died in jail, of course, as a couple of other researchers I'll talk about tonight did. But Reich was just amazing. I forgot all about Reich, but I looked at that sheet of the stuff I'm supposed to talk about tonight, and it said something about Reich. I was like, oh my God, I forgot. I didn't even put him in the real presentation. That story I was going to tell you was that I want to finish is how I got to Grants Pass, and it relates to Reich, or how I got to Oregon. The company I worked for in Ojai moved to Grants Pass, and someone was helping me unload my stuff. I had books, and I had literally 5 tons of books that they brought cross-country to Ojai. Then they brought from Ojai up to Grants Pass. And so I finally moved into a house, and of all the books, there was this one book I took out and set on my table. That I had nothing in the apartment but a table, or the house but a table and the couch, I think it was. And so I wanted to get that one book to do some reading on it. But one of the girls who worked at the place picked it up. It's called Cosmic Pulse of Life, and it's by Trevor James Constable. And she's flipping through the book, and she says, Trevor, because she knew him. And it was just a coincidence, one of those weird coincidences. The girl who worked at the company I worked at knew the author of the book, Cosmic Pulse of Life. They have it back here, I think. They have videos of him, of Trevor Constable, flying around and changing the weather and so forth, and with his Oregon cloudbusters, and averting disasters like hurricanes. He can point hurricanes heading toward Maui, for instance, so he points it at this, and causes an organic depression, and the hurricane actually moves. This is the type of energy we're talking about, and so it's pretty darn amazing. So that's what Reich was working with, and he gave us keys to how we can do this. You can actually do it with your eyes and so forth if you are practiced in bioenergy, which some yoga practices such as Hatha yoga gives you that cultivation of inner energy, which you can actually control weather and so forth like that. But that's outside of tonight's topic. I've got a couple of students actually that I've been working with over the past 3 years who are actually getting pretty good at things. They want to be very anonymous. There's two folks who live here in Ashland that are pretty adept at things. I don't want to get too far into it. But back to Lisa and the book on the desk. So you get a feel for how I'm going to do this talk tonight. Back to that. She happened to work in a photo lab in Los Angeles when Trevor he'd come in with all these fuzzy little pictures, and he would show them to her, and he'd say he'd take these pictures, and she worked in a photo lab, so he would take his camera in, and she'd develop them. And she'd say, well, it's a cloud and a few spots. And he says, yes, of course, it's clouds and spots. Can't you see? Well, every time you point a cloudbuster at a group of clouds or away from a group of clouds, you'll see there are biological entities that live in the atmosphere. Surprise. So they are like little parasites. They are, he called them sky critters. You can actually cause these things to happen. When I did my cloudbuster over the school, there were UFO sightings all over the news all the time. It was kind of fun just seeing it, watching this. But this is a whole area that people just aren't into. So, but you can actually change the small count in a city, so forth, with proper use of a cloudbuster and manipulating this atmospheric orgone energy, or it's atmospheric electricity or whatever. It's a form of electricity. It's not atmospheric electricity. It's a form of electricity. But she worked in that photo lab, and Trevor would bring these pictures in, and they were in the book. He would publish them in this book that I had on my desk, and it was just a little synchronicity. I thought it was kind of cool. So anyway, that was the end of that story. I wanted to finish. I started back last June. Tonight I want to talk just briefly. I wanted to keep it light, and I promise not to do any soapboxing tonight. And I won't talk about the FDA's reign of terror or how they've suppressed inventions and this electronic medical technology, and how they've just done worse things to humanity than the Nazis did. I won't talk about that. But but it's going to be difficult, but I'll try not to. Okay, so let's just go into it. High voltage, high frequency generators. Nikola Tesla, has everyone heard of him? So I'm going to make a lot of assumptions that we know that we have, like since this is the third talk, I'm going to say, okay, this would be intermediate school. And so I won't pull any punches or anything. Nikola Tesla, without him, we wouldn't have modern technology as we know it. He invented the Tesla coil, of course, which is basically the ignition coil type of thing. And one thing that, and he also had a patent of ozone generators way back in 1850s to about 1942 or 3. Ozone was very popular. It was used to, it kills bacteria. It's pretty powerful stuff. Right about the 40s, it was, after the war, it was suppressed because that's about the time that the drug industries started to grow. And so they don't want you going out to the store, getting something that, like the violet ray device is something that I wanted to talk about. These were in use all over the world. And this is a picture of an older set, but I've got it away here so you can see. That's, I don't know how the resolution is there, but they were invented by Nikola Tesla, basically. Lodge brought one of the newer ones. They have all sorts of different attachments. This one is for localizing, simulating the skin or whatever, or acumeridian point or so forth. And it's basically, in this part is a Tesla coil. It's a single frequency, I think. This one is. High voltage Tesla coil. Now they were used to stimulate like different parts of the body with electricity and so forth. And see a little spark there. This feels like it's about 10,000 volts. I'm not sure. But anyway, yeah, whatever. So just like, be careful. And it's like, no. Yeah. Hey, you want to see a near-death experience? When I had that thing, I got hit with 250,000 volts and knocked through a wall and kind of like flew up in the air about 10 feet, they say. I don't know. And then one thing, when you get hit with a lot of electricity, I'm talking about the near-death experience I had in Arizona, by the way. When you get hit with a lot of electricity, your whole biosystem changes. Funny thing happened. This lady was, I can wear a watch that the battery's supposed to die in like a year or whatever, and so I've got one that I didn't bring it, but it's same battery for like, so I think I got it in '93 and same battery. It depends. It changes. I saw a photo or a video of a guy that got zapped by just I forget how much, probably 50,000 volts, and you see the paramedics going to pick the guy up, and the things that they're wearing, the belt stuff on their belt clips, like flying off of their body, like sticking to the guy from like 10 feet. It's like it totally changed his. The human body is a scalar phenomena. It's like a scalar wave. There's the bioelectricity in the body goes through this cross right at the corpus callosum. That's one of the things that gives us our psychic ability and all that stuff. But that's outside of tonight's talk. But when that's amped up, if you know the caduceus, the symbol of the caduceus, I couldn't draw it, but you know the medical caduceus. That's the two snakes intertwined, exactly. The two snakes intertwined across a staff. That symbol is an ancient symbol, but it means when you run electricity through a coil like that, which is called a caduceus coil, or a non-inductive coil, which is exactly how our nervous system is designed, and the heart muscle pulses electricity through that same type of electrical configuration, you get this type of wave that has no magnetic field, and it's actually a gravitational scalar field that is a left-hand rotating gravitational field, which can attract things, and we can control it with your consciousness. And that's one of the things through Qigong and all of that you can actually learn how to do. I'm really at ease and kind of nonchalant about this stuff, but a lot of people, when they talk about this stuff, they get it all, metaphysical and stuff. But it's like, I used to do demonstrations. In fact, I met Uri Geller in 1974, and one of the things, I was 14 then, one of the things, he's the original spoon bender. So I talk about it pretty extensively in my book, but I always wondered, okay, this is fun, bending forks and spoons and stuff. I stopped once. My mother yelled at me. What I used to do was we would go to after Sunday church, we would go to I think it was Ponderosa or some family restaurant. So the adults would be talking. I get bored with all that and just be kind of lining up the forks under the table, playing, and set them out, and then try one. Now they wouldn't bend right away. For me, a lot of times what would happen is they would bend in the drawer, like at my house. So my mother yelled at me for destroying all the silverware. So one of the things I do is we go out to dinner, and like, oh, fresh silverware. So, so heavy bend, and then they would bend, sometimes instantly, sometimes there. But you get bored with stuff after a while. But she yelled at me for vandalizing other people's property. She knew what I was up to, but my parents always supported me in anything I got into. Anyway, I got bored with that and wondered, well, can this be used for something practical? Healing, for instance. And anyone can do this as far as healing another person. I took a seminar with Chokok Sui. He's the author of a series of books on pranic healing. Has anyone heard of Chokok Sui? Yeah, pranic healing. This is about 10 years ago, I think, or 9 years ago. He teaches pranic healing, where you basically use that chi, whatever energy, to actually heal another person without touching them. Just by feeling energy. In higher forms of Tai Chi, you learn to move energy. You can listen. You can extend your bioenergy into another room and listen what's going on. Parents do this. I don't know how they do it. And you can feel what's happening, and you can do it also healing or sensing what's going on in another person's body, whether they're physically there or remotely, when you practice. It's just a matter of practicing. Our minds typically aren't on these kinds of things, so that's why. And we have basically short attention spans, so that's part of the reason why there's not a lot of strong-minded, mental trained people there. Like I said, I have 2 students that are really getting good, and I'm really impressed with them. Anyway, so the violet ray, where was I going to go? Okay, the violet ray device was a high-frequency, high-voltage therapeutic device. It was referred to by Edgar Casey at the ARE in over 1,000 of his readings. By readings, he did remote readings. They would just give him the name, and this is stuff anybody can do. They'd just give him the name and the address of someone, and he would go into his relaxed state and diagnose that person and prescribe a remedy for that person. And sometimes he would refer this. He had his own electrotherapeutic device that you can read about it in the journals of the ARE and so forth. So there were also a lot of outlandish claims. So this was considered a quack device also back in. And now the FDA AMA cartel, drug cartel thing came along and with a broad stroke called all of the electronic devices quack devices. And they just wreak havoc on that whole industry. George Lakhovsky came along. Has anyone heard of Lakhovsky and his devices, a multiple wave oscillator? Great. Yes. Someone. Okay, so the Lakhovsky multiple wave oscillator, he, the French researcher, got a 98% success rate treating fatal cancers over an 11-year period. And his multiple wave oscillator was used in the USA up until 1942 for a 15-year period, and it was also used all over the world, and even 15 years after he died. He was unfortunately killed in an auto accident, but he was also the first to predict the existence of DNA back in like 1919, I think it was, in one of his papers. His son is still living in Paris now. I think it's Paris. It might be Italy. But the multiple wave oscillator was a high voltage, high frequency therapeutic device that's they're still around today, but there was a resurgence in I think the 80s, early mid 80s or so. He postulated that all living things in the cellular level possesses. That's what I get for doing this in the car on the way here tonight. All living things at the cellular level possess attributes associated with oscillating electrical circuits. Okay, translate that, it means all living things at the cellular level have resistance, capacitance, and inductance, which are the 3 components required for electrical circuits to work, radio circuits. They all have inductance, or little coils of wire with capacitors and other things to make them work. So that's what he postulated, that every cell in every organism has that. And when, further on, when you, this is a picture of his device, the original one, when a group of cells or so forth are hit with a certain frequency, they emanate these frequencies, and when they are bombarded with frequencies, they have the ability to react to those frequencies. Now, if they're harmonious to the cell, then they will grow, the cell will be invigorated and will grow. And any pathogenic vibration that's not of its nature will gradually be pushed out of the system, which is how it works. And this is a picture of a modern setup of these are 2 Tesla coils. These blue cylinders on the side are Tesla coils. They send energy to the round disk part. This is actually a circuit board. Now here's a picture of the original one when it's in full operation. Interesting thing about Lakhovsky, a lot of people have not been able to get the results that he's gotten with his. The secret is these rings. If you see these rings, it's a series of concentric rings. These rings are tuned like a xylophone. This outer ring would resonate to 256 cycles per second, which is middle C on a keyboard. If you were to take a mallet and hit and strike the original one, these rings, you could play a scale. There are 10 rings, 10 on this one, I think. So you could play the scale just with a mallet. That's the secret of Lakhovsky's multiple wave oscillator. And so modern researchers, one of the problems with it is the way that a lot of modern researchers are attacking this is they say, oh, high voltage, that's the answer for everything. But it's a lot of research you have to do, and to really know what you're talking about, getting into the tuning of this. Middle C is a very powerful, invigorating chord. Onward Christian Soldiers, the old Methodist hymnal, is done in C, in the key of C, for a reason. It's invigorating. The Great Pyramid has the sarcophagus in the Great Pyramid. If you were to lay in the Great Pyramid and strike the granite side of it, it would resonate at middle C. So that's some ancient technology that he designed into this. When the antenna is turned on and it's lit up, the thing made an awful racket. but someone asked me a while ago, did you have a multiple wave oscillator? And I said, no, I don't think so, but I did. I forgot about it. I've had so many gadgets over the years. I took it apart to make something else out of it. But it's Tesla actually designed a similar device, and there's a patent, I think. Lakhovsky's devices are all patented. You can look up the patent at any public library or through the patent office and get these and figure out what's going on, what's happening with them, and learn how this works. This is suppressed technology that's making a resurgence nowadays. So not only do all living cells generate and radiate high-frequency energy, they respond to high-frequency energy from outside sources. When the outside source vibration is in resonance with cellular vibration, the cell is invigorated. When it's out of sync and strong, powerful, then it can do a lot of damage. Case in point, heart, but I won't go into that. He proved this theory in 1924 using plants. What he did was he inoculated germaniums with cancer cells. And what he did was he took this plant, and I think I can draw it here. He took a plant and basically, I don't know if you can see this. So here is a pot. Okay, this is the pot. This is a plant. There. So he injected it with cancer. So you have a cancerous growth on the plant. What he did was he took a loop of wire at a certain length to give it a certain wavelength to trap a certain amount of energy, and he just simply and let's see, mounted it into the dirt here. So just a loop of wire around the plant allowed the plant to have its own, I don't know if everybody can see that, it's not that important, but it allowed the plant's own electrical energy, all the information in its biosystem, which plants have biosystems too, and information in those biosystems sent out in packets of information, let it be resonated and beamed back into the plant, basically, by just putting a loop of wire around it. It works. And he actually started the healing bracelet fad that happened back about that time, and that's where we got all these bracelets and things that heal, because he also published or sent out his information, and he would sell these little bracelets, and people would get extraordinary results just from wearing a little loop of wire, 12 or 16 gauge or 18 gauge wire, I think it was, no, 16, around at a certain wavelength. It's like 30 centimeters, I think, was the wavelength. And the plants within, I think, 3 weeks were healed. The control group that did not have the loop of wire around it all died. The other ones healed and lasted a couple of years or so afterwards, or whatever, however germaniums live. But you can look up his research and do all this. Yes?
What kind of wire?
Copper, just copper wire. And there have been variations of that. Silver and so forth were used as well. But Lakhovsky did some amazing research, and it's out there. You can still gather his information and use it today. I was going to try to get a multiple wave oscillator. I just couldn't get time enough to get all that stuff together. So this next section, I want to talk briefly about Royal Rife. Anyone heard of Royal Rife? Yeah, okay, yeah. Right, if I had asked that question probably 5 years ago, no one probably would have heard of him, I'm guessing, or 10 years ago, or 20 maybe. But Rife was an amazing researcher. Here's a picture of him with his microscope, and I'll talk about that briefly. There we go. He invented a powerful optical microscope to see living bacteria, viruses, and fungi. And I can't say enough about Royal Rife and his research, but I don't want to bore you with all the technical stuff. I want to keep this moving. Rife, his microscope, the last version of his microscope that he worked on could magnify up to 600,000 times in 1924, I believe, 1930, around the late 20s to early 30s. And that still hasn't been done today. This is like, I mean, it's amazing. He's using electron microscope type stuff. He knew, because of his line of thinking, he didn't use the traditional line of thinking that's taught in schools today. He learned things about the electron. Electrons and photons can be squeezed through. They can store holographic information about something and be squeezed to infinite size and then expand it to infinite size. That's how he could illuminate these and visualize bacteria and viruses, actual viruses. What he did was he was able to stain them. Oh, let me go on. He illuminated them with a light frequency that matched their own resonance and caused them to glow. That's called light staining, which it's like sort of like a chameleon effect that happens when you zap something with a frequency that's close to its resonance. It will start to glow, and that happens with microbes. Luckily, my mother was a microbacteriologist. She worked at General Hospital in Cincinnati, so I got really into microbes and stuff when I was little. I grew up in and around the hospital, so I had exposure to a lot of that stuff. But they're just nasty little bugs, basically. And if you treat them with certain light energy, they'll glow at that. And from that, he was able to observe what was happening through his microscope that he invented. When he intensified the frequencies, he observed the pathogens bursting and going inanimate. These very motile, very alive little pathogens, he would watch them zip around, and then he would crank up the frequency, the intensity of the frequency of the light staining device, or his Rife ray beam thing, and he would watch what's called electrophoresis. What happens is little pores open up on the cells of these microbes, and they flash open, these pores flash open with the frequency of the device. And so they flash open, then they close, they flash open, they close. And if you hit that resonant frequency, they flash open and they go into this little shock state, and then you crank it up a little more and they explode. So he was doing, it's fun. So yeah, he was doing this with microbes. He discovered resonant frequencies for just about every microbe out there. And also, I don't want to make it too sensational, but you can't not do it. He discovered the cure for every infectious disease. his book, the book that was written about his research was called The Cancer Cure That Worked. And this is a video called The Beam Ray Device by James Baer, who's carried on his research. There are several other lines of research, other people who have done other lines of research about Rife's work and so forth. They've had variations. I've seen everything from pad units where you hold the little copper, you put your hands on the pad, your feet on the pad, stick it in your ear, whatever, and you turn the thing on and it's just sending pulses of electricity. Rife used radio frequencies through a tube, much like this one. This thing is a single frequency tube. What Rife did was, I left it on there. What Rife did was he had several frequencies going through a tube of a known gas and of a known gas combination at certain frequencies. There's a picture right here on the beam ray device of one of the. That's actually a copy of Rife's thing that someone made, but that's basically the unit. One thing about Rife, he was funded by the Scripps University, I think. His lab was right there in San Diego. One thing, he was given as a test, given 16 terminal cancer patients of various types of cancer various types of cancer in advanced stages. By using the Rife device, he was able to, by using his beam ray device, he was able to make the patients go into total remission or cured. I don't like that medical term, total remission. It's like they were freaking cured by the thing. And it's all documented. It's very well documented. But what happened was in I don't know if I put all this together. I'll come back to that. This contraption here is his microscope, the version 5 of it, which was just an amazing thing, a piece of engineering. And I'm not doing it justice, but this invention led to the development of a remarkable way of selectively destroying bacteria and viruses. Any virus. Rife discovers a cure for all infectious diseases. And that's something you don't want to do. That's what got him, his lab got broken into in 1960 and vandalized in 61. His research associate was thrown in jail. Last time I misspoke, I said he was thrown in jail, but his research associate was thrown in jail for 3 years. Oh, sorry, yeah. How about that? No, step the other side, a little better. Okay, yeah, that's the contraption there.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, I have, if anybody wants further information on this, I think Heather is here. She can take your name. I'm terrible with following up. I can follow up for like a couple of days, but then I get on other things. But I want to make sure that I get every question answered. And if you have questions, if you've got someone who's got some disease or something, I'm obviously not a doctor or practitioner. I just play around. But I'm saying that slightly. I don't just play around and take it very seriously. But I want to make sure that you get all your questions answered. Sincerely, if you have anything in particular that you're interested in. So just leave your, if you want to, do you have time to, yeah, just raise your hand. It's I'll give her sheets and everything. So anyway, okay, so he isolated, one key thing about Rife is that he isolated the viral cause of cancer. He identified it as the BX virus. And so now that may be news to a lot of people. I don't know, is that news to cancers caused by a virus? Oh, everybody knows that. Okay, well, I'll go on. Anyway, so yeah, he discovered, it's called, oh, okay. Oh, great. We've got one. Okay. So the BX virus is it's a virus that hadn't been seen before. He was able to observe it moving around, and every single person he treated for cancer had this virus, whether it was retinal cancer or whatever. It was the same virus. It hadn't been seen before until Rife discovered it, and he discovered the resonant frequency of that virus and many things about it, how motile it is. It moves relatively 600 miles per hour in vitro inside the body, but all viruses move for relatively quickly because they got a lot of legs and they can move fast. But the thing is, it's a very motile virus, more so than the other. So it's in this whole different class. Rife was able to identify it and basically zap it. And that information's been suppressed. That's why he was put out of business, and he ended up you know, he died in San Diego, I think, of a heart attack in the 70s, I think. Oh yeah, how can I forget? 1971. Yes.
Do you have any idea why that machine wouldn't work? I've heard people
Which
say
one?
the Rife
This machine?
used it on the cancer.
Rife?
Didn't
Yeah.
help and so on.
I do. And it's not, and I don't mean to be like snappy answers, but if they're using the original Rife design, the original Rife frequencies and so forth, there was a lot, like for instance, the frequency of this cancer virus, the BX virus, as you called it, was 11,700,000 something megahertz. That's a radio frequency that has to be transmitted with RF. Meaning it's a radio frequency. You shouldn't be using it with pads. With pads, what happens is the electrical energy will take the path of least resistance. So if you're just putting the pads over, like say your whatever, stomach, liver, whatever, then it's not going to have the penetration. It won't have the full effects. There's also a thing called heterodyning, where that happens in RF, radio frequencies, where two frequencies beat together and you get differential frequencies. So, for instance, say 100 cycles a second and 103 cycles a second, the difference is going to be combining those two frequencies and subtracting those two frequencies, or 3 cycles a second, then 103, in addition to the main frequency. So that's one of the things that happens. So coupling that with a lot of other electrical things happen in the body when you apply electricity, like nitrides are released and so forth. So a lot of the so-called Rife devices out there that are not using radio frequency generated by a tube probably don't work exactly like Rife's original work does. That's my guess. If you saw, did you see the machine that they used? Or?
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Okay.
I don't know anything about it.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there that's called Rife, Rife Bear machines, Rife whatever. But you have to really get into the research and know and they sell these things for like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. I mean, it's like, come on, it's a radio transmitter. But it doesn't have to be that much. It doesn't have to cost that much. Hmm?
How does F-scan fits in this?
What's it called?
F-scan technology?
I'm not familiar with that term.
Beyond life, I was just reading about it.
Oh, okay. I don't remember that term. Is that like a brand name, or is it a?
No, it's not.
There's a few steps beyond Rife. I mean, I'm still in the history of.
I'll show it to you.
Oh, cool. All right. Yeah, thanks. I'd be really interested. I was going to. There are some recordings of Rife talking about his stuff, and you can hear in his voice how passionate he is about this. He was one of the most meticulous researchers that you could do, and that you could find. Very serious scientist, and it was just a shame what happened to him in his research. My father, Roosevelt M. Smith, died of cancer in 1971. Died of colon cancer. And I don't know why I wanted to add this into here. So I got into cancer research, I guess you could say, at about age 11. I was 11 when he died. And Royal Rife died 5 days before my father, same year, 1971. So that just kind of, I didn't know about Rife until maybe 10 years later. Actually, I came across his research, but I couldn't find anything. I came across his name, I couldn't find anything. But I got into pretty heavily into cancer research and found out that every time there's a disease, there's a society gets built up around the disease. So the American Cancer Society, it's like, I don't know, I won't go into it. Don't get me started on that. Anyway, so I got into on what I call, well, I didn't call it, but nuclear oncology. And my mother luckily I had access to a hospital and the cobalt treatments and all the stuff they'd done over the years. I could see that, and she would show me how with cobalt, how barbaric it is. Like the skin turns blue or purple, and all this. It's this horrible thing. It's a horrible thing to do to a person. Chemotherapy is a horrible thing to do to a person. Sometimes it can ease pain and suffering and so forth. But I got to control my cynical side. So can I. Anyway, but nuclear oncology is on the right track of what Rife was discovering. But they still, and back in those days in nuclear oncology, they just used nuclear energy, broadband nuclear energy. The key is tuning to specific frequencies with nuclear magnetic resonance and so forth, to actually control the gene structures and so forth. So without getting into that, that's what I discovered. I was about 14 or 15 when I finally figured that out, and I came up with the same thing that Rife did, but I'm not that caliber of a scientist by any means. I'm an armchair scientist. In 1981, my first girlfriend's father was a Chinese doctor in Canton, Ohio, and this happened to be a student of Li Chen-Young's. Has anyone heard of Li Chen-Young? Okay, John, okay, one person, because John's talked to me a lot. Okay, Li Chen-Young was in the Britannica Encyclopedia up to the 50s when they took him out of it. He was the oldest living person. He was, they took him out. If you can find an old encyclopedia, you can look him up. He's not in there anymore. But in at age 125, he was given a certificate for being the oldest living Chinese person. Age 150, he was given another certificate. He taught at Beijing University. Okay, age 150. He's still teaching at Beijing University, herbology and so forth. At 200, they stopped giving him certificates for some reason. So, and then he had a few students around and just basically traveled around teaching. And then he died of in 1936 of food poisoning. So that's a kind of an interesting story how he died, but I don't want to take any more time with that. So Li Chen-Young's Mimi's father was one of his original students, and he was 80 years old. He looked like he was 40 and acted like he was 40, and I was kind of like, how come you're 80 and you look like you're 40? And he's looking at me like, what do you want with my daughter? You know, the same same thing. It's like, so we're like, he found out I was really into a lot of unusual things and that and alternative health and so forth. So he opened up and told me a lot of things. He said that one of the many things I learned from him was that viruses eat toxins. And one of the things that happens is in the body, when you get a lot of bacteria, parasites, and so forth in the body, especially bacteria, the waste of the bacteria is usually nitrites and so forth, and that's like throwing out handfuls of corn for chickens, whereas the chickens would be the viruses, and they just like come in and attack and all of that. So that's viruses eat toxins. So once you can purge the toxins from your body, the viruses will leave. Create a domain in your body where germs will not proliferate. What they do is when they attack the body, they set up an electric field around themselves that's highly positively charged. Everything in the body is negatively charged and electrically negatively charged, and it also has a certain spin on it, electrical spin, topology, to the waves. So what happens is with virus infection or any type of infection, you get these positively charged domains in your body, and the immune system, that's what triggers the immune system to send hydrogen and so forth propagating through the system to try to create a domain that's life-giving to the organism. So this is kind of against the germ theory of disease. We're talking about the domain theory of disease. So one of my friends invented a nutrient called microhydrin that's actually an electrical nutrient that actually gives the body more hydrogen, more electrically charged hydrogen. Without going into the detail of that, it's called microhydrin or megahydrin, whatever, and it's invented by Patrick Flanagan. It's a nutrient that changes the electrical properties of your body so that no viral infection can attack you in the first place. If you have enough of it in your system, it can cure just about anything. And I can use the word cure because I'm just a guy off the street. But try it if you have any type of viral infection. Yeah. Okie doke. Where are we at? Okay. We'll take a break in just a second. How about that? Give me like 2 minutes. Is that okay? Is that okay? 2 minutes? Okay. Am I boring you? I mean, oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, okay. All right. Okay. Okay, well, now let's talk about something really interesting. Okay.
What was the name of that nutrient?
That's called microhydrin. Microhydrin. It's, yeah, that's, yeah. Yeah. Pat Flanagan, for those of you who don't know, I have a couple of inventions by him. Well, there's a lot that he invented, but Pat Flanagan invented a device called the neurophone when he was 14, and he was a prodigal genius and so forth. This microhydrin is like one of the most incredible inventions. What he'll do is he'll invent something, then he'll disappear for 15 years, then he'll come back and invent something else and disappear for 15 years. But the latest thing, there's a couple of amazing devices that he just put out, but the microhydrin is I don't even know how to start that. Maybe when we come back from the break, we'll go into that. Before we break, I just want to talk first about this type of electrical device, and then we'll lead into Lange's presentation on the biocomp. And let me do this real quick. Yeah, see how far we want to go here. I'll just do a couple of slides of this. You all familiar with zappers? Okay. No? Okay. This is a zapper, the classical kind. You find them all over the place. I don't know how much they are. I don't know what they sell for or anything. But this one is, what they do is they send out a pulsed frequency through these little electrodes. And the same problem with these, I'll just come out and say it, with these is what happens with those so-called Rife devices sometimes. The electricity takes the path of least resistance. The purpose is for blood electrification. When there's an electric charge in the blood, one of the phenomena that happens is that pathogens in the blood can't live. It strips them of their ability to procreate, their ability to live, and their whole life process stops when you hit them not only at the right frequency, but with just electricity in general. You're fine. So this is a zapper made by a friend of mine, Don, and we were talking one day, and I said, well, why don't you change the circuit and do this to make it work? Okay, God, I hope he's not here. Anyway, so what happened was he redesigned the thing and sent it to me, and it's like, oh. Anyway, this has a giant magnet in it that's he calls it his terminator, but it's totally, without the magnet, I can't speak to the magnet, but without the magnet, it has a certain type of coil, electrical coil in it that is part of an earth resonance generator circuit. And this gravity coil, like I was talking about before, everything in the body is levoactive, left-hand spinning. The nutrients or the amino acids in the brain have the L prefix, L-arginine, L-thiamine, whatever. All of the amino acids in the body are levoactive. That means they have a left-hand twist. That means the molecular structure of them are vibrating on the left-hand twisted electrical field. So there's a phenomena that happens when you pulse electricity at 8.5 cycles a second, or 8 cycles to 11 cycles a second through a Mobius-type coil. A Mobius coil is a coil that's the one-sided coil. It pulses out a monopolar electric field, a field that has, which is the same thing as gravity, basically. And the human biosystem locks onto that. Real quick story, and then you can go have your potty break. Real quick story. I had one of these, well, not a zapper, but a pulsed electrical field. It does the same thing for your electrical body that a zapper does for your body, basically. I carried one of these. It was about the same size, only it was a blue box, flashing light. What it does is when you are around something that pulses at that natural human frequency, that 8.5, what's called the Schumann resonance, 7.83 actually, or somewhere in there, anywhere from 7 to 11 cycles a second, your biosystem will phase lock onto a natural energy, and you can avoid the effects of electronic smog, which is just electrical noise from our cell phones, from all kinds of gadgets in the environment, pagers and stuff. But when you have something that's pulsing at that frequency that's close to your body, as a square wave or whatever, your body will naturally lock onto that if it's within 3 feet of it. So one of the problems is smog. Or electronic smog is one of the things that zaps our energy when we're flying cross country. We're flying through magnetic lines of force at 600, 700 miles an hour, and that just wreaks havoc on our biosystem. Sometimes it takes 3 days to recover from that. But if you have an electromagnetic pulsar with you or something like that, you can your body will lock onto that, and people around your bodies will lock onto it as well. adding the Mobius coil to it, it makes it a more profound effect. So I had one of these, and I'm going through the airport. This is a few years ago, and I had 2 pagers and a cell phone. The company I worked for was sending me somewhere to fix some computer network or something. And so I had this on not the zapper, not this, but a pulsar on a earth resonance generator, I call it, earth resonance generator. Anyway, I had it on a belt loop, so I took it out, put it in the security tray, took the pager off, cell phone, put it in the security. So they looked at the cell phone, okay, can you make it work? So yeah, so they picked up the pagers, they both work, and they says, okay, what's this little box with the flashing light? And you know, they have like no sense of humor. So I didn't even go into it. I said, well, this is and I went to the thing about it helps you avoid the effects of jet lag and so forth. And I was amazed. She just turned it on, looked at it, and said, okay, handed it right back to me. And I just wanted to say, it's a bomb. Anyway, I wanted to do that, but I didn't. But yeah, so it was amazing. They let it go. So that was like 10 years ago, though, I think. So, yeah. But today I wouldn't fly with one of these. But a zapper is a tool that's promoted by Hulda Clark in her book. She identified over 700 bacteria, fungus, and viruses, the resonant frequencies of these things. And these are being sold all over the country for that purpose of purging the system of these parasites. This one, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Some of them do. Some of them do work, but sometimes the body builds up a resistance to them. It depends on a lot of factors, like how they're designed, the intensity of the wave coming through it, the shape of the wave, the frequency, all of that. It depends. There's so many different viruses and parasites. I'm talking about little worms that are in the system that propagate through the body and through the veins and all of that. They do have an effect. Anytime you send electricity into the blood, into the biosystem, it has an effect on those things. Yes?
A testimonial about the Hulda Clark zapper.
Yes.
A friend of mine built one.
Mm-hmm.
Planted it for
From the.
used it well when I had pain in my knuckles. That was hard to grip the steering wheel of the car without pain. And 5 days at 1 hour a day, totally wiped it out.
Wow. Wow, that's great. That's super. I've had friends that, oh yeah, break. Thank you very much. That's great. There are thousands of testimonials about the zappers. If you build it to Hulda Clark's specifications, like the one that he used, it has certain sets of frequencies that they use, and they're very simple, and you can get extraordinary results. Arthritis, some forms of arthritis are caused by parasites that attack the cardio system. And yes.
Is it important that they match the Schumann resonance?
Not particularly with zappers. With that technology, no, it's not. But
Because I understand we've got a changing or varying resonance.
yeah, and that's kind of another topic. But that's true. Yeah, it does change, and it's very hard to track. It's pretty much fixed for this generation. We all respond to that 7.83 to 11 cycles a second. That's our dominant brain wave when we're in the creative state. It's the hippocampus and hypothalamus oscillate at those frequencies. That's their optimum frequency for functioning. And optimal mental functioning, actually, when the brain is at that alpha state, you can turn on your genius faculties right away. And there's simple techniques to go into that state of mind. But yeah, this generation, for the next 50 years or so, is pretty much fixed, locked into that. There's a whole lot of other factors. There's geomagnetic radiation that comes from the Earth. There's also solar and things like that. But the Schumann resonance is very powerful, but it does change. So I talked briefly about zappers, and they're quite, and it's great to have such a diverse audience because so many people know so much about this. I just met someone who's been doing this like 40 years, and it's like I've always said medical science is like stone knives and bear skins. It's that thing from Star Trek that Dr. McCoy said this line in one of the episodes, like, how do you expect me to fix this and with these stone knives and bear skins that these people use? And it was I think it was in the Save the Whales one where they go back in time, and Chekhov had fallen off of a nuclear carrier trying to find nuclear vessels or whatever. They needed power for the ship or something, and he fell.
He's dead, Jim.
Yeah, right. Right, he's dead, Jim. So Chekhov had fallen off, and then he just had this. It's going into a coma, so they're rushing him around, and so this guy, one doctor was saying, well, why don't we just drill into his brain and just to relieve the pressure and do all this, and then we put the screws, put him back together with a bunch of screws and stuff, and then that's when Dr. McCoy went off on his tangent, on his thing, and so they pull out this thing called a neuroclasp, which I follow the technology because that's kind of where stuff is going. It comes from the mind of science fiction creators because they're wired, whatever. I don't know. They get this. So a neuroclasp sticks it on his forehead, presses the button, and says, "Come on, Pavel, wake up, wake up," and he wakes up. And it's kind of neat, just how that gives us a model or something to flow our creative energy into for the future. Someone was telling me about some technology that's light years beyond all of this now, and I'm going to research that just to stay up to date. So I was saying this stuff is like stone knives and bear skins relative to what he was talking about. Yes?
You know about something that was on the RBL show a long time ago, and they sold these kits that were, it was only sold as a plant growth stimulator, but it was supposed to be similar and better than the zapper. You put the electrodes along the veins.
Yeah,
of the arm.
probably.
It's supposed to kill all kinds of cancer.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there now. That's one of them. That's similar to the zapper, only it's actually I have a slide. These are some other zappers that are out there. Various frequencies. This one on the left is the auto zap, which has a built-in timer. And Hulda Clark's book, The Cure for Cancers, The Cure for All Cancers, and The Cure for HIV and AIDS. I was one of the first people marketing that book nationally, by the way, about 10 years ago when it first came out. Had an ad in USA Today magazine. I tried to track Hulda Clark down and found out she had basically been run out of the country, and she's had a thing in Tijuana now. But that's the FDA's reign of terror that I was talking about. Anyway, so this AutoZap thing, she prescribes it for 30 seconds, or 30 minutes on, off, and extraordinary results like the one gentleman was saying. These are two other versions of zappers made by different companies. So there's a whole bunch of them. Professor Ludwig is a German researcher who is doing an extraordinary amount of research into pulsed magnetic fields. These devices aren't quite yet available in this country. I haven't checked toolsforwellness.com, their magazine, their catalog. You may find them in there, I'm not sure, but these send certain frequencies pulsed magnetic fields, no electrical contact to the body, but electrical fields that still have that same effect as the zappers and so forth, of purging the system of parasites without contact. Yes?
So would these work for the SARS virus?
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff. Yeah, SARS is there's not a single virus that can't be cured. There's no disease that can't be cured. We just have to get past the sensational fear factor and know there's a common denominators.
So it would have a different vibration then?
Yeah, and I don't know specifically what that is, but I can say that any infectious disease can be cured with this technology by electromagnetic radiation. And viruses are amazing. There's a morphology that happens where this is something that Rife discovered. I don't want to take too much time rambling on and on about this, but Rife discovered a morphology of viruses where a virus in a certain state can actually morph into a bacteria and back again. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. You can do your own research and study this stuff. That's something that, and like I said, I don't pull punches. The NSA is all over that technology. In fact, back in the 70s, I mentioned I got into electronic warfare using microwaves and so forth. There's some pretty scary stuff that can happen with transmitting viruses using certain types of radio waves and using what they know about that morphology of viruses. And I'm not the fear factor kind of guy. Like there was one speaker I heard that here somewhere that he went on and on about this, the monkeys from outer space, or the reptile or something from outer space, and goes on and on and on about that. It's like, just get over it. There's nothing to fear about but fear itself. So that technology can exist, but it does exist. But when you get your mind and body in a certain state, it's like water off a duck's back. It doesn't affect you. And that's all I can't really go into much more detail about that. But I've been in just pretty stressful situations, and people just can't figure it out. But it's a lot about the state of mind and all of that. These electromagnetic devices. This one in the bottom here is a laser device that there's this yellow cylindrical thing. They put homeopathic remedies and so forth in that. The information contained in the molecular structure of that homeopathic treatment or whatever is transmitted through the laser beam into the acumeridian system of the person or so forth, and they get instant results from that. It's pretty amazing. These are by Professor Ludwig, marketed by AMS Advanced Medical Systems, and they're all over Germany, all over Europe. Just now getting, we've been dumbed down by the powers that be and so forth. So you never hear about this stuff. But if you're a clinician, if you've got a practice, you can integrate this stuff into your practice, and you can get extraordinary results with your patients if you want to bring this about. This is what you were talking about, I believe. I don't know. I didn't hear that particular Rife or Art Bell show. I haven't.
Dr. Beck.
Oh, this was Dr. Beck. Okay. I don't. Oh, well, it was Bob Beck then. Yeah. So Bob Beck stuff is probably some of the best quality zappers and things out there on the market. They use different technology internally that really properly send the electricity into the bloodstream and so forth for blood electrification. This gadget is like $2 and a bunch of batteries, a trip to Radio Shack. You can do the same thing. It's a microelectricity germ killer. I have a website for information on this, how to build it, what it does, all of the pathogens, everything that infects the gastrointestinal system can be treated with this same thing. It's two leads going on the other side of the guy's arm there that just connect it to the arm right over different veins. And it's pretty simple to make. They work. It's amazing. I think it's called It's actually, there's a Yahoo group, and that means there's hundreds of people read these. It's a group, and I think it's, if you can do a web search for microelectricity germ killer, and I think that's the name of the Yahoo group. So it would be groups.yahoo.microelectricitygermkiller.com or something like that.
Can these things be used for our pets, for our dogs and cats?
Yeah, anything, same thing, they work. Anything that works on a human will work on in this realm, will work on a pet. So this also causes electroporation of blood parasites, extremely effective to treat. I had all the numbers of the different diseases that have been documented on that, but I didn't get a chance to really integrate that into the presentation tonight. Altcancer.com, I was going to grab some images real quick off the internet to show you tonight, and then I found out this website's been shut down by the FDA. They had all kinds of cures, known cures for cancer, cesium, everything out there. It was, and it's like, they're gone. But so the FDA, it's great to have ethics and enforce ethics among professionals. So that's one function that they do very well. But I don't know. But you just cannot cure cancer. Cancer has to be diagnosed by a physician, and you're not allowed to cure it. So sorry. Join a society or something, Here's something from Russia. It's called the Sputnik. Emits frequencies lethal to human parasites. Swallow it, and parasites appear within 12 hours. This thing right next to the coin are remnants of a tapeworm that the guy didn't even know he had a 20-inch tapeworm in his intestines. But the Sputnik electrocuted the thing on the way down. What it is, it's a little pill-shaped device. Here's another image of it. And this is a little LED, a little red LED tester. I'm just realizing my mic's not there. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me now? Okay, alternative parasite zappers. This is that design. They're designed by, it's electronic pill designed and manufactured in the 1980s by the Tomsk Medical Institute, a very prestigious institute in Russia. designed by medical professionals there and doctors, and it's ratified, or whatever the word is, approved by their version of the FDA, and it's been in use since the 80s. But like I said, we've been dumbed down. We're not allowed to even, But thanks for the internet, all the information about everything is out there, and it will eventually, and it will always be there, hopefully. This is the packaging. On the left here is how it's packaged. These are just for diabetic patients. These are some of the things: increased indigenous insulin creation, decrease in blood cholesterol level by not less than 30%, decrease in low-density lipoproteins, decrease in glycosyrized hemoglobin, that's sugar blood, increase in blood serum testosterone level, and improvement in estrogenic stimulation just by, and within 12 hours of ingesting one of these pills. They're activated by saliva. They don't work unless they're in vitro in your system. Yes, sir.
Is there a website for that?
Yeah, and let's see. Well, All Cancer had it, and I think I have it. If I'll get it to you. If I wanted to print out these slides and have handouts and all that, just didn't have get to it at the time. But yeah, there is a website. I'll try. I think I saw it somewhere. I don't recall the actual website. I have it written in the notes for the slides here. Anodyne therapy units are used now quite extensively for pain relief, TMJ, oral surgery, orthopedics, podiatry. What these are, this is a little matrix of light-emitting diodes that are infrared light-emitting diodes in these flexible pads that and they're connected to this little box here that pulse the light directly into the biosystem. Used by the Navy SEALs and Army Rangers and Special Ops Forces, healing soft tissue injuries, bullet wounds, and frostbite.
Infrared or visible light?
Infrared. They're light-emitting diodes. 40% reduction in healing time for everything from broken bones to sprains, everything. Got some interesting shots here. These are Navy SEALs. If you're in the military, you get banged up. It's something that happens. I don't know. Navy SEALs treating various owies with these units. It's funny. I got this picture off the web. They got their little faces blacked out, so you can't see their faces. It's kind of funny. I thought it was hilarious. So they're in this is in San Diego at the U.S. Navy SEAL training thing. Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering on the anodyne units.
Mm-hmm.
It helps with blood circulation.
Yes.
So what would that do if someone has cancer?
It depends on this. Well, my purpose for this, I don't know specifically if this has been used. This particular device has been used in that arena, but I know it releases nitrous oxide, which accelerates the healing process. But it's also that's something the cells need for growth. So I don't know. But my purpose in showing this is showing that's where the technology is going to injecting light into the system. And we can basically live off of just light. And that's like jumping ahead to where I typically go when I talk about this stuff. We can basically live on light. I did, I sun-gazed and fasted for 75 days on just sunlight and water. Just the biosystem can live on just light. It uses light to actually transmit energy between the cells and to heal itself. That's the real thing that happens. And that's where we find out all these amazing healing results are coming from this device. There's a way to the next level of this device, and I just designed it on paper and I didn't really do it, is coming to modulating the light with certain frequencies and other information instead of just pulsing the light, the raw light coming from these pads. So that's where my purpose for talking about this is saying that's where the technology is going. So for cancer, it's possible to use just light and pulse at certain frequencies and that. But this device, that particular device, the anodyne units, they're made by a company, I think in Louisiana. Anodyne is the name of the company. And they're sold all over, available for practitioners, chiropractic, whatever. Really powerful. I mean, dramatic results. Here's Bell's palsy. 2 weeks cured with just using a light. The girl got it contracted or diagnosed May 12th, 98, May 24th. Bell's palsy is nerve problems, facial nerve problems. I won't go into all of this. These are related light energy injecting patents that are out there that you can actually look up and see that this stuff, it exists, it's there, it's been there for years. It's, pages and pages of stuff, laser devices and so forth that are in different companies. This is an interesting, I won't go into that. This is electric gym healing. This is a lady, Dr. Angela Blaine, I think she's in Ireland or Scotland. Anyway, she uses a certain type of high-intensity light shining through rock powders, gem powders. And the energy of the gemstone is transmitted through the light into the body. And just also amazing results in healing. And penetrates deep, very deep into the system, depending on the type of powder, rock powder or gemstone that she's using. This is actually a laser device that's testing the reaction of the biosystem to it. And into what she calls the assemblage point, which is the center of all the meridian energy in the body. Okay, quantum medicine. Then we'll lead to the biocom coming up real soon, because I know Lange has limited time here, I think. How are we doing on time, actually? Quantum medicine is where a lot of this is going to. Medicine taught today has not moved much past 19th century levels. I don't mean that they're still teaching the same thing in medical schools. They're not talking about quantum energy yet, quantum healing, the stuff that Deepak was talking about, integrating consciousness and other factors into the healing process. Doctors who research quantum medicine are looked upon as outsiders. After a recent coup in the global picture of physics through quantum theory, information medicine has moved to the forefront. Now, what that means is when quantum theory, different inventions or devices, and not devices so much, but quantum mechanics there's so many things that have happened just in the past 5 years. No one knew what electrical or photonic entanglement was, but we find that photons in Paris can affect photons in San Diego instantaneously. And it's like, well, how does that happen? Well, through quantum integration, it can. And that's leading us to the Star Trek world of teleportation and so forth, and instantaneous travel. It explains why, it also, if you get into the deep science of it, it explains why Bell's theorem works, or how remote viewing works, and remote healing works. That's one aspect I got into following Edgar Casey's lead. I studied Jose Silva's mind development course. It was called Silva Mind Control back then, how to control more of your own mind, deeper and deeper levels, and bring about healing in another person, or facilitate that psychically or whatever, remotely. And the more you practice it, the better you get at it. It's amazing. So that's something that this information medicine, the new advances in discoveries in quantum physics are explaining how this works to mundane people who aren't shamans running around with feathers and sage, which works. That works also. It's very powerful. So anyway, the Biocom bioresonance device, I consider it one of the most sophisticated bioenergetic medical devices out there right now. And there's been a tremendous amount of research and testimonials and so forth all over Europe, Germany, all over the world, actually. And here in this country, I think you can legally use it on pets. But thankfully, we have people who laugh in their face. Biocom 2000, most sophisticated medical, bioenergetic or informational medicine device. What happens is everything is made up of molecules. Every molecule has a certain resonance and has certain packets of energy. In order for energy to get from point A to point B in cellular level or in any level, it's packetized, meaning it's not just one continuous stream of energy. It's packets, even with computers. It's funny how we model the world after computers, or we model computers after the way we work. Computers communicate with packets of data. Data packets are called. And inside that packet is encapsulated all kinds of information, like who I am, or if I was a computer, it would say, this is me, this is the time now, this is what I'm all about, please talk to me. And the other computer says, hi, who are you again? And it reads that packet, the header and the footer of that packet. Well, that's how information travels between cells and between parasites, between everything. They packetize information. This information packet around the human body can tell you everything there is to know about the body. That's the aura, the everything, in that energy field I was talking about. The Biocom has the ability, the technology built into it, to read that energy data coming from a person or your cat, or whatever, and distill any pathogenic information that's life negative or whatever. And it has 6 modes. They have 6 modes of operating. And without going into all the technology, I can let Lance talk about that. Is she still around? Oh, there she is. Okay. Hi. Okay.
10 minutes.
Okay, 10 minutes. Okay.
My son's going to show up.
Okay. All right. So there's 6 modes of talking.
You can talk.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Okay. No. You. Let me get out of your way, actually. And Lance is a local practitioner, I guess. How would you describe you?
All my animals, no.
They're all animals.
I studied shiatsu and acupuncture and
Oh.
became a
Is that Mike?
sensitive in Mount Shasta.
Let's do
My
this.
ex was a radiologist, so I could play games. Because I'm pretty sensitive. Help. But basically, I got turned on to this machine in spring, and the woman just sat me in front of a plate, tanzered me with a dowsing tool of this sort. And you can pick up the oscillation of the person, basically. You sit in front of a plate, and she did this to me, and I was like, whoa. She could tell my right ankle was sprained, my bottom wisdom tooth had an infection, which I've been to Robbins like a couple of times, like, well, the popcorn skin's out. When is this going to resolve? It's been 2 years. And she could tell I had heart stuff, and in one treatment, it just like, anyway. There's a lot of devices out there, and basically, the Biocom was created by these doctors. They wanted something more than the Mora. They wanted a A plus AI program, which is the bottom, which cancer and parasites and things are smart. And if you just zap them, they hide. They go deeper in the tissue. And so the A program kind of gives them this happy, just their own information back. And they don't get to hide. They get to be busted out of your system. So anyway, it has a Schumann wave, which is on amplifier attenuate, which is either tourmaline or ruby frequency. They work a lot on gems. And the filter inside is gems. And oh.
Just put it like closer to your.
Okay.
There we go. There we go. Get your wire here sooner or later. Didn't help at all. Just hold
You
this.
take over.
Hold that. I'll take this. Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I could do a demo, or I don't know how to explain. I'm not the techno guy, okay? But basically, the thought form behind this is before you get cancer, you have parasites or bacteria that are smart, and they start to propagate in your system. So they're precursor to cancer. And I'm just supposed to work on people. I love you all. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. I was saying that cancer and parasite are treated as smart beings, basically. And you work with parasite or Basquiat and Candida and other things before the tumor. And a lot of people have geopathic stress, so you have to take away the geopathic stress or the scar tissue that are blocking the meridians before you can treat anybody, basically. It works with principles of acupuncture and meridians and the Schumann wave. and your own oscillation, basically. You know, it can read your blood and saliva, and the mat is like a MRI mat in a way, without hurting you and lining up all your cells, and it just treats your whole system. It's got a huge field. It's got like 6-meter field, and then you have to move away from the person when or the animal while you're treating them. Yes. And you break your hydrogen bonds basically afterwards, so you're not really supposed to get a massage after or anything, but you drink like 3 quarts of water for like 3 days afterwards. The 80 window, this machine goes from 10 hertz to 150 kilohertz because they've tested on brain cells of little chicks. Hey, it's hard to be famous. And basically, they've shown that the brain cells of the chicks will resonate at that frequency, but it will explode afterwards, or doesn't respond before the 10 hertz. So anyway, blah, 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 yes?
So is this something you use in your practice?
Yes, I do.
Where are you?
I'm here. Right now. I have cards I can pass out, yeah. You know, I still use my acupuncture and my flower essence, and it actually has a chakra therapy that's amazing. It's really fun, so, yeah. Anyway. Gentry, save me.
Okay. No, that's. Figure out how to turn it back down now. Yeah, that should do it. Okay. Thank you. All right. So, okay, I've got 2 mics. There we go. So the bioresonance device is. Thanks, Lange. That was wonderful. She's quite the healer. The bioresonance device is a. Now I've got this way high. Is that okay? Okay. What was I going to say about it? There's one feature about it that I thought was pretty fascinating. She mentioned this gizmo. What was this called? Tensor?
It's a Tanzor.
Tanzor. It's without going into that, I'll let you. I won't touch the thing. It has this feature called the Biocom chip. This Biocom chip is Biocom chip is a metal plate, a small metal plate that stores information in the molecular bonds of the actual iron molecules, which is just like water will store information. You can take a glass of pure water and treat it with your hand. Hold your hand in front of it. The hands emit laser energy that's very, you can actually tune into it and beam out energy and so forth. It's modulated by your thought process. Well, the water, if you hold water and think really happy thoughts to the water and give it to someone, the water, if it's pure water and it has these certain molecular clumps, it will store that energy, that information packet, like I was saying. Well, same is true, and that's the principle that magnetic core memory works on for computer science. Magnetic core memory stores information in much the same way. Water stores it holographically, much like photons do. But the Biocom chip in any metal will store information and energy, or any substance will. This device has the ability to impress a certain type of frequency or of a remedy or so forth on a little thing about the size of a credit card that you can carry around with you. And people get dramatic effects from just like having a homeopathic. This is why homeopathy works as well. The information stored in the molecular structure of the ion matrix, basically. And that's how homeopathy works. But this device has the ability to impress certain radiation and so forth. Radiation or information onto a metal plate. You can carry around with you for about, 3 weeks or something? They work.
When you say it's 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
The water, like there's Grandeur water.
The Grandeur water. Oh.
Oh, jeez.
I'll get the other one. No, this is interesting. What did I do with that thing? I left it somewhere. What did I do? Oh, yeah, okay. Thanks. Okay. Great. Okay. Yeah, I'll repeat what you say.
Basically, there's water called grandeur water that can hold information for 2 years. And it just depends on the frequency of the clusters and how live the water is, basically. So if you use green spring water, it usually takes about 2 weeks for the chip is 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, has anyone ever tried grandeur water? Yeah, how do you get a response from it? Yeah, grandeur water is some of the purest water on Earth. Without going into the whole water thing, I won't go into that. Oops. Yeah. Anyway, let's go back to this real quick. So we've talked about just about everything. I wanted to show you a couple of gadgets. Do you want to do any demonstrations on the? Is anybody interested in being a guinea pig?
Okay. All right. Great.
Okay.
A lady with white hair.
While she's coming up, I'll tell you about some of the. Let's see. I was going to show this thing, but that's not really practical for tonight. One of Tesla's original devices, and Murray and other people. Let's see, where's that other microphone? Oh, we might want to turn it off while we're. Thanks. One of Murray's. There were several radiant energy healing devices that came out in the 30s and 40s, and this is a plasma globe. Oh, sorry, that's me. This is a plasma globe. I don't know if you've seen these things. Well, probably not like this, but this is what it does. Is this is about 10,000 volts going through this thing. They had these desktop units that you just sit on a table and you sit around the table, and it would resonate, send out this full spectrum energy like infrared and RF, all things just like a multiple wave oscillator, and only it would be transmitted through this. Tesla invented it, and this was actually a prototype for the original light bulb, which Tesla invented years before, before Edison and all that. But anyway, so this would send out energy. People would feel tremendously healthy just by being in the field of one of these at certain frequencies, high voltage, high frequency, certain frequencies. But I don't want to detract from. Do you want to describe what are you doing now? Or do you want to describe what you're doing? Oh, okay. It's a secret.
Working on a horse right now.
Okay.
The horse is
Okay. Yeah. She's not treating a person now, because that would be illegal.
Hear me whinny a bit.
Right. Right. Okay.
Well, I don't know if you want to tell everybody what's going on.
That's all right.
Okay. I'll repeat it.
Yeah, I have a lump in the left breast, and I want to know if it's cancerous.
Okay.
Boy, see where it is to the left. Okay.
Did you get that? Okay.
Do they make those light bulb things?
Well, this I just brought to show.
Can we buy those?
I don't think I got this at Target. This isn't really a healing thing. It's it's like a modern day lava lamp kind of thing. You buy them, you stick them on your desk. They're just high voltage, high frequency.
Do they put out good stuff?
This one just a bunch of infrared, and maybe not actually. I just wanted to show it the original ones that Tesla worked with. I had in my laboratory, in my little lab when I was a kid, I had 10 of these strung like Christmas tree lights with a 120,000 volt power supply, and that's how I would light my basement with these things. It would be in my little lab. It would be just being in that high voltage, high energy field. I just loved it. I mean, I felt great. I built a similar type of device once to treat the whole house, and put high on top of a pole in our backyard. We had a totem pole there. My father was a scoutmaster, so scouts and Indians, we had a totem pole in our backyard basically. So I put this high voltage, high frequency resonating device on top of this totem pole and turned it on, and it was putting out this field and so I'm enjoying it. It was just great. You could feel it. You could feel the energy in the environment. Well, Mr. Turner, who's a ham operator about a block away from our house, comes down, knocks on the door, and first thing he says is like, "What are you doing now?" It was like, and I said, "Nothing." So he immediately because what had happened, and I wasn't thinking, all of the cordless phones didn't work in the whole neighborhood. It jammed all of his ham band, because it's full spectrum energy. Jammed that, TV, everything jammed, so you couldn't get any reception on anything. And so he like instinctively knew to come down to my house because I was always fooling around with things. And
Do you make those?
no, I don't. Someone will eventually. It's coming back. The technology's coming back. And what it was, Tesla's original thing was a box, Tesla and Moray, and their patents are out there. You can actually, radiant energy healing, I think is the name of the patent. But it's just a little box that sits on the table with a bulb like that in it, and a couple of dials. Oh no, I don't think there are any dials. Yeah, on Teslas there weren't any dials, because he had it at a certain frequency that he thought was energetic, and also produced ozone in the air, which is healing, kills germs, all of that in the body. But I don't make them. No, I don't do anything really. How's she coming? She cured yet?
She's gonna live.
Oh. I'm sorry.
I'll wing my way back.
Yeah.
Can you describe
What's going on?
Yeah, what's going on?
I don't know.
Okay, here.
We've got.
Take my mic, please.
Okay.
And just you have to put it somewhere that's.
Ay. Okay. Your name again? Suzanne's coming up positive for PCBs, environmental toxins. I'm not technological. Oops. And no.
It's got to be like. Here,
I suffer.
Can you maybe zip that and then we'll higher, and so that way we can get this closer to your.
10 minutes later, yes, they were still at it.
There we go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, great, this is happening. So I'm testing vials basically. I've got a program which is just the frequency of these vials that I'm taking, and I've got the saliva going into the input cup, which is a spin tester. It actually can do a right spin reflected or left spin reflected, like around your, whatever they call those things, electromagnetic field. Things that are healthy spin right, and things that are not healthy spin left. But so what I'm looking at is there are toxins that are overwhelming the body, and instead of saying, oh, this person has cancer, which it did come up positive on the melanoma vial, not the cervical or the bone cancer that I have. I'm looking at the fact that she has PCBs, environmental toxins, radio waves, and anyway, so I'm just going to look at supporting the system, basically. And yeah, we'll talk. I said, you can laugh your way out of cancer. So it's all about raising frequencies, basically, yeah. But thanks for neighing your way up here. Yeah, and sharing. Okay. Right. Yeah, let's see what Gentry has now. Okay.
Oh, I'm
No, you're fine.
fine, thanks. Yeah, these things scare me. I don't go near these gadgets. No, it's pretty, in the hands of a highly trained operator. That's one of the keys for devices like this. The operator, there's like, how many hours of training do you have to go through to get?
I've gone to 5 trainings, and there were like, I don't think you can ever be
Right.
really trained.
Right. I see. But in the hands of a trained operator, it's amazing what can be done with this as a tool to facilitate the healing process. Yeah, I could go on and on about it. Yes? Sir.
What do you think about those EMF Tesla watches? I had one that's supposedly I wear on my left hand, and it's supposedly
I can tell you the history of the Tesla watch and all of that, and who stole the design from who, and why it's out there, and Andrea Puharich designed the thing, and well, he didn't design it. Gillis Patrick Flanagan designed it. Pat Flanagan designed it. Puharich stole the design from him and marketed the watch. It was the Earth resonance generator, the device similar to the device that I talked about, only a miniaturized version of it. It pulses electricity through a left-hand spinning coil, left-hand twisted coil, resonates to the body, and he sold millions of them. and they work. They can be tested only with the right type of apparatus, tensor field detector. People do it with biokinesiology, like Lange is very trained in biokinesiology testing, and so someone on her level could probably tell you if the thing is working or not, if it works. But yeah, they do work. Have you ever used a Tesla watch, one of those?
No, I can tensor and see how you respond to it.
Yeah, everyone reacts differently to them because they're kind of random frequencies. Some of them don't work. They don't have the insides to work. I bought one and took it apart, and it didn't even have, it's like a Timex. It's like, but then my friend of mine, Terry, I had a science group together, esoteric science group years ago, and we bought a whole bunch of stuff and sawed things in half and took it, and a lot of it was a lot of junk, but he got one that actually had the Mobius coil. The Mobius is that left-hand twisted topological electronics, like the caduceus, puts out that gravity field that the body locks onto. That's what the Tesla watch is all about. But Andrija Puharich stole the design from Flanagan. If you ever talk to him, he'll tell you all about it. And he was only like 16 at the time too, so that's kind of exploiting someone. Because I was kind of I was a prodigy, well, sort of like a prodigy at a young age, and a lot of things I was kind of exploited in that way by the Department of Defense, and so that's why I'm really like down on inventors being exploited like that. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, good for you. You lost it. Okay. Good. All right. Okay. Well, how are we doing on time? We're done. We're done. He's done. I'm not. Like, I'm just getting fired up. So now we can talk about something really interesting. Now, I guess that was I really wanted to show this because it's just an amazing device. Schumann resonance. I got one little treatment with it. And I'm not subjective. You can be like the world's greatest hypnotist and look at me and say, "You are a chicken" or whatever, and it's like, I don't do that. I don't do subjective stuff. It's like because I've been thinking for myself on several different levels for a very long time, and but what happened was Lange gave me this little treatment just because I just heard that she had one of these, and it's a $25,000 gadget. I mean, it's not like a thing from Radio Shack, It's and so I wanted to check it out, and I went in, and what was that? The treatment you gave me was for just a general Schumann resonance.
It was
and
a Schumann wave, and I forget if you were exhausted.
Oh, yeah.
You were really tired, so it was an exhaustion treatment. And,
okay.
you had geopathic.
Oh, she said it was a exhaustion and I don't know.
Geopathic stress.
Geopathic stress and stuff.
Exhaustion.
Yeah, stuff shows up in the energy around your body before you know it. That's one of the things Harold Saxon Burr, I think, discovered. He showed me the book. That you'll have a reaction in your biosystem before you know it. It's really interesting. These are things you can actually cure when you use pranic healing. You can sense that in someone's field and help facilitate the healing process before they even know they've got some kind of energy parasite or something. But anyway, so this was in my field, and I knew I hadn't slept in a couple of days, but that's my pattern. I'll go like a couple of days without sleeping or eating or whatever, and then I'll collapse, and then I'll come back, but that's my cycle. But so Lange treated me for 15 minutes maybe or so, and just laying on the pad here, and it's pulsing, and the machine's going, and it's an automatic frequency in there or something, and I didn't think, I felt, okay, that's nice, I had a treatment of the thing, and then about a few hours later, maybe half a day later, I started to detox, like I hadn't detoxed in a long time, and it was like, and that went on for like 3 or 4 days, but.
What kind of detox?
Well, you don't want to know. It's the clinically, very clinical. But my energy level, I don't know. I can't remember my energy level. I go all the time, but I think it was a.
Did you have a parasite treatment?
I don't know. I don't think so. Seemed like it. Yeah, it seemed like it. But that was my first experience with it. And I had that opinion of the device before I even had a treatment, that it was one of the most sophisticated devices out there. But I'm learning there's other things out there, thanks to the gentleman who told me about the space treatment thing. But I'm going to research that later on. Yes?
You looked into Valerie Hunt's work?
Well,
Valerie
Hunt,
Hunt? What you into?
I'm not familiar with.
She was a professor at UCLA, and she worked with dealers and measured the energy field that they measured, and she worked with what's called infrared lines.
I remember a Moss, Thelma Moss. I remember her work from UCLA, but I don't remember. I may have come across it. I don't recall right now.
You may have worked with Valerie.
She may have. Okay. Yeah, I'll check that out. I'll make a mental note to do that. Interesting. Okay. One other thing that's always an interesting, and then we can break, or I can keep going. You can whatever. I mentioned my friend Pat Flanagan. He invented a device called the neurophone when he was 14 years old, and this device, he just came out with a newer version called the Fibonacci, or the golden ratio noise. The golden ratio, if you're familiar with that, you're familiar with the golden ratio, it's every major artist, every major researcher, not researcher, but every major architect, whatever, in ancient days and today, Michelangelo used the golden ratio in his work. It's in the orbit of the planets. It's in our actual hands. Our whole body is built on these ratios, and it's actually very musical. For instance, and I showed this at the last talk. Say your index finger, this first joint, multiply that by 1.168, you'll get the length of the next segment. Multiply that by 1.168, you'll get the length of the next segment. That's how it folds in. That's a Nautilus curve. That's the same pattern of nature, all of nature. Things only fit together one way in this universe, and that's using the golden mean ratio. Our whole body, our sense of beauty is connected to that golden ratio. By that I mean facial beauty or whatever, the resonance of the cheekbones to the eyes to everything. There's a lot of information out there about that. But without getting into too much detail about that, there's a way to do that with sound and architecture. You can go into a room. The Great Pyramid has the golden ratio all over it. That's why when you go into it, your body goes into this altered state instantly. Anytime you enter a room that is made to those resonances, and this is what they incorporated in building these temples for that particular reason, to actually put you in an altered state, to let you know you're now on sacred ground. And that's where the root of the word sacred comes from and all that. Michelangelo, if you look at the pentagram, actually Lange's card has the man thing. I don't know if you can see that, whatever it's called. But he's showing the ratio, and if you can see the pentagram and all of the ratios that are encoded in this painting or in this drawing, and all over his notebook and all over his works of art. When we say of that sense of beauty, these guys back then, they knew that, and they encoded it into their work. And it's been lost now in our architecture and so forth, but it's gradually coming back. But what Flanagan has done is taken that information and put it into sound. And so there's now what he calls this golden ratio neurophone, where you listen to this golden ratio sound, and it's pink noise, like noise from a shower, but at different bandwidths, like 1.168 wavelength longer than the other. So what happens when you listen to that, instead of just going to alpha, which you do in the shower, or when you hear that pink noise sound, that sound of ocean waves rushing, you hear it at different resonances. What happens is the biosystem goes into this total state of bliss listening to it. It's amazing to hear. I did it on my computer. I can't do it here now. I did it on a different computer, just creating it, just because I know the math behind it. But he's encoded that into the new neurophone and cut the price in half and all that, so they're available now. And one of the side effects of listening to the neurophone anyway is that you go, the acumeridian system, after about 5-10 minutes, goes into this total state of balance. If you're out of balance, and if you listen to it for a long period of time, you'll go into a profound state of balance. What the neurophone does is it allows you to hear through your skin, bypassing the 8th cranial nerve. So I have a whole presentation on it, but they're inside the ear. There are several organs. One of them is called the saccule. Saccule is a small pea-sized organ that is responsible for our sense of balance and so forth. There's little hairs in there. They're not actually hairs. They're silica, and they send nerve signals to allow the person to have a sense of balance. So every organ has multiple purposes, higher purposes, not just like the liver isn't just for purifying blood and so forth. There's other things on up to the esoteric level that happen with the liver, connected to the acute-meridian system and so forth. But I don't want to digress onto that. But the neurophone, one of the side effects of listening to this is it sends sound modulated on ultrasonic means. One of the purposes of the saccule is to allow mammals to hear ultrasonically. Dolphins, when they swim, and part of my thing was I worked with dolphins it was actually 4 months that I was in this project, Human and Dolphin Communications Project. One of the things that dolphins do is they sense this energy packet around the body, which we're talking about, which the biocomp works with. They sense that as actual shapes. So when you have something, anger or whatever, they sense, they actually see and feel jagged shapes around the person. Now what they do is they send bursts of sonar to try to smooth that out so that they can communicate with you. That's what happens. Now we picked that up with our saccule, and one of the things about the saccule as ultrasonic hearing is that it has nerve roots on both halves of the brain. Both hemispheres are lit up basically at any time you listen to ultrasonic sound. So one of the side effects is you go whole brain thinking instantly. That's why dolphins. It's good to swim with dolphins when you can. And autistic children and kids respond, and they're just drawn to them, because it's an ancient sense of communication that we have. That's how I don't want to say that's how psychic phenomena works, but that's one of the factors involved in psychic communication. And I just know this from my own personal experience and stuff. But dolphins they're extremely intelligent and on several levels. But listening to the neurophone through that saccule causes, over a period of time, a person to go into brain balance, gradually holistic thinking, as certain other ways of thinking don't work after a while, and your brain naturally goes into this natural way of problem solving, creative problem solving, and so forth. Speed learning, you can listen to language tapes and not really pay attention to what you're listening to. And it goes directly into the sympathetic nervous system. You gather this information without even conscious knowledge of what you're listening to. It's possible to do that. I've done it over the years. I've got my first one in '77, and he's advanced the technology over the years, made it lighter, smaller, and so forth. And now with the new one, and you can look up this information, and I don't know if Heather's still here. So if you want more information on anything, just she's going to write down your name and information, and I can pass it on to you. I don't have handouts or anything like that. I just have information, and I can pass it on to you. I don't sell anything either. But I can point you in the right direction. So the neurophone, flantech.com is Pat Flanagan's website. Neurophone.com, neurophone.com is the website for the neurophone, and there's a little information on the Fibonacci, or the golden ratio noise neurophone, but not a lot. But I meant to get pictures of it at least. He was going to send it to me, but we lost touch before. Yes?
What do you said you're working with modulating infrared right now?
No. Me personally? Or?
Yeah.
I'm not really working with it. I just, I did a design of that anodyne. I kind of redesigned the anodyne circuit, which uses pulse infrared to work with different frequencies. And I haven't built it yet. I haven't made one. I'm going to experiment with one sooner or later. I meant to get all this stuff months ago and have it here, but I got other stuff.
So you're going to modulate the output of the LED?
Yeah, I'm going to do that. Oh, yeah, but what I want to do here is just, if anybody's interested in hearing the neurophone or anything, I'm going to connect it. How it connects to your skin, it's a form of electronic telepathy. Oops, electrode's falling apart. These touch the skin right above, or on the temple, or above the eye, wherever, as long as they're touching the skin. You can use a headband to secure these under. You put the headband on and you can secure it. When two people use the neurophone, one has one electrode, one has the other, and you touch fingertips or something, some really fascinating things happen. One thing is synchronicity. I can tell you all kinds of stories of synchronicity. I had our science group, there were 10 of us, and we all got the older neurophone, and we all had similar dreams. We had synchronicity between us that happened, like one person being in one part of the country. Or today, well, not today, but now, I have a friend, Kevin, who's an actor. He's in LA. He got an agent the same day I got an agent, like for my book. For my book, wherever it is, and he got an agent for his acting. It all happened, not just the same day, but the same way. It was kind of weird. It's really weird. And I don't get weirded out by stuff, but that was cool. I mean, that was really interesting. He has a neurophone. Yes, absolutely. Let's connect it before I keep rambling here. I just want to plug this in. And feel free to leave. I mean, I don't want to hold anybody hostage or anything. Yeah, neurophone.com, neurophone.com. Through the neurophone, you can listen to anything. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Okay, you're welcome to go. Hang. Okay. Are we? Well, first I want to thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you very much. Very hospitable. Thank you.
RVML Resource Center is a volunteer-operated federal 501c3 tax-exempt nonprofit organization. RVML is dedicated to providing easy access to a comprehensive collection of information on a variety of metaphysical, spiritual, and personal development subjects. RVML accepts and appreciates all donations. Material and monetary contributions are fully tax-deductible. This recording is not copyrighted, and permission is granted to broadcast, exhibit, or duplicate all or part of this program for non-commercial educational purposes. This live presentation was organized and presented by the Rogue Valley Metaphysical Library and Event Center. For more information, please visit rvml.org.